Hi and welcome to this ThinKiosk 4.0 demo. My name is Andrew Morgan and today I'm going to show you how easy it is to roll out VMware View on a Windows client using the new ThinKiosk version 4 software. In the demo we're going to spend a couple of minutes configuring the management server profile for a Windows 7 VM to connect directly to a VMware View environment. So first what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the management console, as you can see here, and I'm going to log in as the administrator. And I'm going to need to create a folder first for the VMware View devices to sit in, so I'm just going to call this View. The next thing on the agenda is I'm going to need to create a profile for these devices. This is the profile that will be bound to the machines as they connect into the server. So I'm going to create a new profile by the name of View. And then we're going to go ahead and configure it for our environment. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to configure the company name. I'm going to change the appearance so that it appears in black. I'd like it to take up 80% of the screen. On the applications, on the appearance, I'm going to make sure that only the application tab appears. We don't need the browser because this is VMware View. I'm going to configure the default domain name, which is home in our case. And I'm going to retain the last username just so it's convenient. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add 3 VMware View connections. I'm going to show you a direct connection to Microsoft RDS. I'm going to show you a direct connection to a Windows 7 PC over IP machine, and I'm also going to show you a choice selection so the user can choose what desktop they want to use. ThinKiosk has a number of different options when it comes to VMware View, and the flexibility is really how you want to deploy it. So let's start by adding our RDS desktop. So let's call it RDS so we know which one it is. And as they say, here's one I prepared earlier. Just a couple of connection file commands. The server URL, the desktop name, and the protocol being RDP. So we add that one in, and that's the first one that's going to appear in the list. Next up is another VMware View connection, and this time we'll call it Windows 7. And this is going to be our PC over IP connection. So again, here's one I prepared earlier. I'll take the command across, specifying this time the Windows 7 x64 as the desktop name, and the protocol is PC over IP. And I assume you're seeing a pattern emerging at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and just configure the choice option now. So this is the options where you can allow your user to choose what desktop they want. And command line being very simple, which is just the server URL to connect to. So those are the 3 options that I hope to show the client when they connect in. And I'm just going to customize the appearance of the tile ever so slightly. So I'm going to change the tile border to be transparent because I don't want a black line around it. So up next, I'm going to configure a startup script, and I'm going to configure the startup script to install the View client on the next restart. So if I go ahead and take one I prepared earlier and pop it in here, this script will be available from the forums at a later point, so you can see it yourself. And I'm going to go ahead and configure the background color of the machine to black as well, just to match the profile that we've set up. So with all that configured, we can go ahead now and save this configuration. And the last thing we need to do is bind it to the folder. So over here we're going to go and assign that profile to that folder. So that's it. Our server-side work is done, so let's move over to our Windows 7 VM. So here's our Windows 7 VM, and I've copied down a copy of version 4.0.45, and I have a little installation script here that we're going to use to kick off the installation. The script is very simple. I'm specifying that I want to replace the shell. I want to auto log in as the ThinKiosk machine account. I'm connecting to a server by the name of Grumple, port being 11,000, and I want to jump into the target folder View, which is the folder we specified in the management console. So I can go ahead now and run this as an administrator. This will auto-configure my machine and lock it down so the user can't circumvent disk security, create the firewall rule as I've specified, and connect into the server and download the profile that we've specified. Once all this is complete, the machine should restart and we'll end up with our startup script running. So while this is going to go and restart now, we can pop back to the management console, and we should now have a new device underneath our View folder by the name of Win7x86, the IP address it was on, and the last time it was heard from. The rest of this information will be populated the first time the ThinKiosk client starts up. So as we can see in the background, the Windows 7 VM is coming up now. As we specified, the startup script should be visible to the user, which is handy for troubleshooting. And as specified, the script should now install the VMware View client. This startup script can be used for a number of different items. Basically anything that you can think you can script, you can put in here. But it's very handy for deploying the View client or the Citrix ICA client, or updating the Microsoft ODP client, for example. So the View client has been installed. The View client does need a restart, so we've specified to restart the machine. So now, when this machine starts up, the startup script shouldn't take long, and we will be logged in as the default ThinKiosk account, ready to serve connections for the users. So as you can see, we've auto-logged in as the ThinKiosk account. ThinKiosk is now starting as the shell, connecting into the server, and it's building up our application list as we specified earlier. These applications are published as Metro Live tiles, and we have our RDS connection, our Windows 7 connection, and our choice connection. To give you an example how these work, if we open up the RDS connection, we'll be asked for our username and password. ThinKiosk will handle this authentication attempt, pass the credentials to the View client, and connect it directly to the machine without any user interaction. These connections can be auto-launched first thing in the morning, so your users don't need to do anything. And as you can see, ThinKiosk has brought us directly into the user's desktop and back to where they were working. So I can go ahead and close this desktop now, and I'll show you the PC over IP connection too. So again, once the session is ended, ThinKiosk will reappear, and we can try the Windows 7 desktop instead. As you can see, it's retained my username from last time, and it's authenticating me into View again, and this time picking up a PC over IP desktop. And there we have it. That is our PC over IP connection. The last option I wanted to show you was the choices menu. So assuming we don't want ThinKiosk to handle the authentication, or we want the user to have a choice as to what desktop they want to launch, we can go ahead now, allow them to authenticate it themselves, and then pick the desktop they wish to use from the View client. So as you can see, there are many, many options for how to deploy ThinKiosk with VMware View, giving you as much freedom as possible. I hope you found this video informative, and I will be posting another number of videos in the coming days around Citrix technologies and Microsoft technologies.